Hello everyone, my name is Greg and I dev stuff. Welcome everyone to episode 8 of Grid Map in Unity tutorial. Terrain, move cost and actually moving character. Today we want to make it possible to select the character and move this character around on the map and affect his ability to move by its terrain. So we can select the character. Then we can select the tile we want to reach. Now we need to move the character to the position player selected. In this method we are placing the object on the grid. What we need to do is when you move the character, you remove the character out of the grid node he is standing right now and place it into a new position. We need to save the character position into a variable. We will use it to track down the current position of this object. And when you remove the object of the map or move it around, we will be able to pass this number to the grid map and tell it to remove the object in this position. Create a new method called removeObject from the grid. Inside, create and call a new method clearCharacter on grid map. Inside, this method removes the character of the map. Create a new public method called moveCharacter. Where we will remove the character of the map first. Then move it to a new position. Then call and create a new method called moveTo, where we set character into a new position. Now we need to call moveCharacter when we select the tile for the character to move to. Open Character Control and get the map element of the selected character. And move the character to the end of the position. Because the path is inverted, the destination will be at element at 0 index. Now we need to move the character sprite. Open the map element and move the character sprite object to a new position. Here I did some basic maths. If you set up your pixel per unit correctly, it should make it so 1 will be equal on one of the axes to 1 tile. And we need to make an offset so our character will stand in the middle of the tile and not in its corner. I forgot to update X position and Y position of the character and assign a new position after moving the character. Now we need to deselect the character and clear the pathfinding map after moving the character, so there is no chance its pathfinding data will be used for other characters. There is a small issue here. If I press outside the currently available tiles to move, it will throw an error. This is happening because our trackback path, if it can't find the path, it will return just a simply empty list. That's it, but not null. So what we will should do is to check if the path list is empty, then we don't move the character. That will mean that this character can't reach this position. But before we continue, if you like this video, please subscribe and leave a like. This episode is brought to you by generous support of people on Patreon and members on YouTube. If you want to join them, link to my Patreon in the description and join button available right now on YouTube. Thank you very much everyone for your generous support. Okay, right now you are moving through all the terrain at the same move speed. If you want to make swamps and make it difficult terrain to pass through on the map, you need some way to mark certain tiles as difficult terrain. Select the world map tile map. As you can see, we have a tile set, which stores the reference to the tiles we want to place on map, based on the map data. If you remember, we did it so map data can be used to any kind of tile set. So we can simply swap the tile sets on the same map. We can do similar thing but for terrain data. We can attach a scriptable object with the terrain data. Create a new scriptable object called terrain data. Now we need a handy way to assign type of the terrain. Let's create an enumerator called terrain type. Inside you can define all kinds of types of terrain, but keep it simple. Try to generalize terrain types as much as possible. Don't go overboard with types of swamps like deep swamp and shallow swamp. Instead of having river and oceans, just have one called water, etc, etc. Create a list of terrain types in the terrain data. Create an instance of this terrain data. Now we need to assign the terrain data to tileset. Open tileset script and add terrain data public variable. Assign the reference to terrain data. So now what we need to do is, in the terrain data, assign the terrain type to this tile in the tile set. Before that, let's rename main tile set into woods and terrain data into main terrain data. Then, while having main terrain data selected, click on the log icon. This will log the window state. Move this window to the side like this. Now click on the three dots to the side of the log. Add a new inspector window. This window will come unlocked. So when we select the woods tile set, it should show the tile set scriptable object. And because the inspector to the left is locked, it will not switch off the main terrain data. Here, now you want to select terrain type. First element is sand, so we choose plain. And second and third elements are grass, which will represent swamps or difficult terrain. So select swamp. Good. Now when we are moving around, we want to take in account the terrain type. Open the path node and add a new variable for terrain type. And when we init the pathfinding grid, add terrain type to the constructor as a parameter. We need to get the terrain type of the terrain data on the map data, which is being used in Grid Manager to make our tile map. Get the Grid Manager reference and call and create a new method called getTerrainType. Inside, get the tile ID and return terrain type of the terrain data using this tile ID. Now in the pathfinding, where we calculate distance between current and neighbor node, we need to multiply calculated distance by terrain type. Multiply calculated move cost by new method called terrain multiplicator. Pass the destination node as a parameter. Return float instead of integer, because this way we will have more control over values. Return 1 as a default value, meaning that if not specified, this terrain is totally passable. Then using switch statement, return double the terrain multiplicator based on the hills and swamp. So the higher this number, the harder it is to traverse this terrain. Later on, you will want to implement a way to modify movement cost of the terrain based on the unit type. We will have to modify this part of the script. Most likely had to pass the character type here or something. Anyway, this can wait. Let's not mix integers and floats, so let's turn all the move cost and g values into float type, and use total move cost instead of move cost in the g value. Comment out the check walkable. Now you can see how character struggle to move through the swamp, but move freely on the desert tiles. Good, this is it for this episode. If you have any questions or any ideas about code, please leave your comment below. If you are interested in seeing what will come out of this, please subscribe. If you want to support further, you can find my Patreon in the description. Special thank you to Andrew V. Long for his generous support. With best regards, see you in the next episode.